Hello and welcome to Moments in History. I'm Linda Shenton Matchett, author, speaker, and history geek. While researching my stories, I unearth tons of intriguing historical information that does not end up in my books. So I've created this channel so I can share these tidbits with you. Thank you for stopping by to watch. As the United States mobilized to fight during World War I, military leadership discovered that many members of the armed forces had limited reading skills. To provide reading materials for soldiers, to encourage literacy and support soldiers during difficult times at the front lines, the federal government approached the American Library Association, also known as the ALA, for assistance. Eager to support the troops, the ALA created the Committee on Mobilization and War Service Plans, ultimately shortened to the Library War Service. With the mission to provide a book for every man, the ALA raised $5 million from public donations, and with the help of a $320,000 grant from Andrew Carnegie's corporation, erected 36 camp libraries, distributed an estimated 10 million books and magazines, and provided library collections to more than 500 locations, including military hospitals. The Carnegie Corporation and the Library War Service also funded 1,100 library workers to staff camp libraries and military hospitals. In addition, the Library War Service provided books in Braille to soldiers who had been blinded in battle. Toward the end of the war, 2 traveling libraries were established by the ALA and headquartered in San Antonio Carnegie Library and at the El Paso Public Library in Texas. The Library War Service, to coordinate the program to provide books for soldiers, headed by then Librarian of Congress Herbert Putnam, the organization operated from 1917 to 1920. Public libraries across the United States participated in Library War Service activities, serving as collection points for books, as well as places to organize and promote the campaign. The collecting activities ALA monitored demonstrate some of the same professional creativity we see in libraries today. The Millville, New Jersey Public Library sponsored a movie benefit. Each person buying a ticket was also asked to bring a book for soldiers. The library sold out 4 performances and collected several hundred books. Boy Scouts in Milwaukee commandeered wheelbarrows and baby carriages to move books they collected door to door. The St. Louis Public Library hosted numerous events in the main library and branches across town. The Crundon branch conducted a dance in the reading room, where a Filipino orchestra whose members wore native costumes played music behind the circulation desk. Dancers paid an admission fee, which the ALA then used to buy books for the campaign, or donated a book. The Carondelet branch hosted a chaplain from a nearby training camp to lecture on camp life and the soldiers' needs for reading materials. For publicity value, however, few outdid the 12-year-old daughter of Frederick William Ashley, Rachel, who was superintendent of the Library of Congress's main reading room at the time. In February of 1918, Rachel dropped off ALA leaflets at home in her Washington, D.C. neighborhood, to which she attached her phone number and slips noting, "I shall be glad to call on Saturday, February 23rd for any books that you may wish to give soldiers and sailors through the American Library Association." Within 1 hour of returning home, she began getting calls. That Saturday morning, she and 2 friends pulled a child's express wagon, as they called it, from house to house, and by noon, they collected 121 books. Camp libraries were simple wooden buildings similar to World War I canteens. Designed by architect Edward Tilton, the libraries provided space for 10,000 volumes and around 200 readers in buildings that were approximately 90 to 120 feet long. A large percentage of the books contained information required for effective military operations and helped prepare soldiers socially and intellectually for life after the war. In 1918, a librarian at Camp Meade wrote the following to a reporter about his troops' need for books. "We are having repeated calls for technical handbook and textbooks. We want all kinds of engineering handbooks, mechanics handbook, books on engineering and books on all branches of service. They cannot be too technical for the men. You will be interested to know how quickly the newly purchased books are snapped up. One of 6 copies of Thompson's Electricity, 4 are out now, and were out within a week of when they were ready. However, equally popular were books that helped the soldiers escape the stress and fear of being in combat. Library of Congress staff member Theodore Wesley Koch was quoted as saying, "The first and second sixpenny series of the 100 Best Poems go out in generous installments. So do the 100 Best Loved Poems. Shakespeare is preferred in single plays, and the officers ask for new 6-shilling novels and all kinds of lighter biographies, what Robert Louis Stevenson called heroic gossip. Travel books of all sorts are acclaimed too. So also are the light-to-hold editions of Thackeray, Dickens, Poe, Kipling, and Meredith." Koch went on to mention that some libraries included game departments for the soldiers, stating, "There is never a ceasing demand for playing cards, dominoes, draughts, and good jigsaw puzzles, even with a few pieces missing." Interestingly, some of the books were retracted from the libraries if they were deemed pacifist or in support of Bolshevism. In a letter dated April 21, 1919, A.G. Hubbard, assistant to the director of the Library War Service, wrote to ALA representatives and librarians with a list of books that, quote-unquote, should not be in the hands of impressionable young men. These titles were approved by the book department before Bolshevism was such an apparent menace to the country. Like other volunteers during the war, especially the Red Cross and Salvation Army, Library War Service librarians wore uniforms while performing their duties. There were separate uniforms for camp librarians and hospital librarians, as well as separate uniforms for men and women. Camp librarians wore a forest green uniform, similar to a military uniform, with ALL pins and patches that marked the wearer as a war service librarian. Female librarians working in hospital libraries had a unique uniform of naturally covered pongee, which is a silk-like fabric that looks textured. The work of the Library War Service continued after the war, hitting its peak in April 1919. After the war, the U.S. military assimilated most wartime library services, and ALA-managed libraries were transformed into military-managed libraries that came under the auspices of professional library departments that were created in the Army and Navy. Library service in military hospitals also continued, first under the U.S. Public Health Service, then under the sponsorship of the Veterans Bureau, and today under the Veterans Administration. In 1921, the Library War Service helped found the American Merchant Marine Library Association to benefit the merchant marines and the U.S. Coast Guard. I hope you've enjoyed today's moment in history. If you'd like to learn even more, you can visit my blog found on my website at www.lindashentonmatchett.com. And please consider subscribing to this channel. Click the bell icon below to receive notifications of new episodes that generally release on the 2nd and 4th Fridays of each month. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day.